What's up, guys? This is Chris from Honest Outlaw here, and today we're gonna talk about maybe the downside to buying budget guns, or at least some of the downsides for sure, and some of the experiences that I've had today and obviously previous with many other budget guns that I've purchased. Before we do that, I want to thank my patient supporters. Thank you guys very much. It's because of you guys I have all the guns on the table here. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you want to help support the channel, all you gotta do is go to the link in the description below and sign up. Also in that description is a link to a local shelter named Iowa. Those kids could really use your help, so please go down there, click that link, and donate to those kids. Now, we're gonna talk about two guns that I had some issues with today that I was kind of surprised that I did. And then we're gonna go down the tier here and kind of tell you what I think of each tier of handgun, or at least what different price sets and maybe the track record, long-term durability that you can expect from guns like that. So I'll start with a little story. We've been recently cleaning out the gun safe a little bit, and I've been trying to sell a few guns to buy a few more guns. We just did a video on a couple of guns that I wish I didn't sell. There's a lot of guns that I'm happy that I did sell, but we'll go into that later. But two in particular, which have been on my budget gun list that I have raved about, maybe I was a little quick to rave about them. One of those that you guys knew about a month ago or so is going to be the Stoeger SR9. Knew that I had some problems with it, but nothing as bad as what I'm currently having. So the Stoeger STR9 did not get a 1,000 round review because it did not make it to 1,000 rounds. And we were going to do an update video, so I guess I'm just kind of including that into this video right now. Not entirely sure what's wrong with it yet, but we've certainly narrowed it down to the trigger mechanism. The trigger mechanism is just non-functioning. I've got to do the old Glock trick, or I use a pen or an Allen key and then take the back plate off and then see a little bit more. But I was going to take it in today to have it looked at, and we found out that the gun doesn't even function, so Shields is not even going to look at it or anything like that. So this gun is basically a paperweight. It does not function at all. I also had a brand new Taurus G3C, a gun that I have several versions of. I have the Toro, I have two other versions of this G3C. I have a G2C and I have a G3. All of those guns function extremely well, so I had no reason to say otherwise. However, this one I had never shot. Obviously, it still has the sticker on it, and it obviously looks much newer than this one does. And that's because it's never been out of the box, and I got it for potentially a test gun, but never saw a reason to use it. And I tried to trade it off today for this guy, which you'll see on the channel here in a minute. This is the P30S V3, which we'll get into here in a second. But I was going to trade off some cheap guns to buy the H&K that they had up there. My buddy Blake, I was talking to for some time, and we go back and forth all the time about guns, and he told me that was there, so I was going to get it. Well, I obviously did get it. But we went to put this in a battery, because this gun has been locked back like this for months, sitting in this box. Magazine in it, no reason to think that it wouldn't work, obviously, because all the other ones did. And see that? Gun doesn't even go into battery. That's not a good thing. That means that the gun doesn't work right out of the box, would never be able to fire even a single round. Now, could you potentially file some of the barrel to get that to work? Maybe. Could you potentially send that to Taurus's customer service? Yeah, maybe, if you could get a hold of them, and probably wouldn't get back to you in a timely manner. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here, is that out of the 4 separate iterations of this gun, 3 of them worked absolutely perfectly, and 1 is completely non-functional. Sadly, that's kind of the reality that you're gonna have. Now I can't even lock it out. Sadly, that's the reality that you're going to have with budget guns. Now, if you go to a gun like maybe a Beretta APX, for example, which is not a sub $200 or $300 gun, it's around about $350, $400 range, and you get it from a quality manufacturer with a good track record, you're going to have less chances of something like that taking place. The reason for that is because their quality control is not as good as a company like Smith & Wesson, for example, which is why you hear about a lot more people having lemons with Tauruses. Now, do they make some good guns? Hell yes, they do. Obviously, you've seen many of them on the channel here that function great, but there's just gonna be more of a chance where something like this is gonna take place when you get a sub $300 gun. Part of that is because of the materials that they use, quality control, checking the gun after it's been manufactured, that's probably fairly spotty. And on top of that, just the overall machining practices probably are not going to be as precise as something like an H&K. And I wanted to talk about that because you're looking at the SR9 at the gun store and you don't know that much about guns, and then you look at the HK-P30 and they look fairly similar. They shoot the same round, they both have slide serrations, they both have kind of decent sights. Pull the trigger, the SR9 might even have a better trigger than the P30, right? And you're like, why the hell would anyone ever pay $600 for this gun when you could get this for $300? Well, the reality is that there's a fairly reasonable chance that this, if it does work for a while, which this did, shot a little over 500 rounds with no issues, then all of a sudden it started having problems, more problems, and then a little known to me, when we go to the gun store to have it looked at, the damn gun doesn't even work at all. And that's the reality of a sub $200 gun. Is that gonna happen every time? Absolutely not. Is it gonna happen most of the time? Absolutely not. But again, when you're buying something as serious as a firearm and you're gonna use it for personal protection, that's one of the reasons why we train, right? Because if I didn't shoot 500 rounds for this gun, I may never even know that it was defective. So you need to put it through the life cycle of the gun, and at that point, maybe you're gonna have some issues, maybe you're gonna replace some parts, whereas you get something like an HK-P30, for example, or even a cheaper M&P, you're probably gonna run thousands of rounds through the gun with no problems whatsoever. And I don't say that with no experience. I shoot something like 40,000 rounds a year through handguns, and I've ran plenty of guns to their life cycle and passed. And if you get something like a Glock, or a CZ, or an H&K, or even a Walther, you can get into Walther or some Berettas really cheap, and a lot of times you'll have a gun that will last you your lifetime. Is that worth another $150 to you? Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much your life is worth, but my life is probably worth more, which is why I suggest people can get these Taurus G3Cs, and you're most likely gonna get a gun that works, because I'd never seen one that didn't work. Could this be a fluke? Absolutely. But the reality is that I've also had other Taurus guns which didn't work. I've had Remington guns which didn't work. I've had Stogers which didn't work. And at some point when you get enough of them, you kind of stop, adding it up to coincidence, and you start realizing that that's just a reality. It's a variable that takes place in the buying process, If you buy a Stoger, you buy 100 Stogers, 98 of them will work. And hopefully you're not the 2 that don't work, but it could be. And I just wanted to make that video while I was a little upset about it, because I gotta say, it was a little embarrassing to bring a brand new gun up to trade off that didn't work. Now that this has taken place, I'm gonna have to go through the process of getting a hold of Taurus, probably sending this gun in, getting it fixed, sending it back to me, all which takes time, right? And time is valuable. So that's one of the issues that you may have to deal with. Taurus usually has fairly good customer service-ish for a budget company. Whereas Stoger, I've already sent 2 emails, not as the Honest Outlaw, but as my own regular name, just to see what kind of experience I got from Stoger, and Stoger has yet to reply. So we'll see how that goes with this. But I've done customer service with companies like Glock, and Glock can be a bit of a bitch, but Smith & Wesson and HK and all those companies are generally pretty good, and that's just another thing you're gonna get when you pay a little extra for a gun. So if you have enough money to get into a Beretta APX or something like that, those are gonna be the upsides over something like a G3C, for example. But these are generally good guns. 99% chance that you're gonna have a good gun, especially with today's manufacturing. It's gonna be a lot less spotty than maybe 20, 30 years ago. However, I just wanted to share my experiences and my feelings during this little issue that I have, and hopefully this helps you out in your buying process, and hopefully this gives you some information maybe you didn't know before. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.